I've cut up 3 credit cards in my life, felt powerful every time, thought I was finally taking control. But here's what nobody told me. I didn't fix anything. I just changed the weapon I was using against myself. Today, I'm going to tell you why cutting up your cards might be the exact wrong move, and what's actually been sabotaging your finances this whole time. Hi, I'm Daniel Brooks, and you're watching Wealthic Voyage. Today, we're diving into one of the most misunderstood battles in personal finance, the war between you and your plastic, and why I spent years fighting the wrong enemy while the real one was hiding in plain sight inside my own head. If you've ever blamed a credit card for your debt, sworn them off forever, or felt like you just can't trust yourself with one, this story is going to hit different, and it might change everything about how you think about money. Let me take you back to where it all began. My first credit card showed up in the mail when I was 19 years old, a freshman in college, working part-time at a campus coffee shop, making maybe $800 a month if I was lucky. The card had a $500 limit, some promotional offer I'd signed up for at a table outside the student union in exchange for a free t-shirt that I definitely still have somewhere. A free t-shirt that, in hindsight, cost me about $4,000 in interest and fees over the next 4 years. But I'm getting ahead of myself. At first, I was responsible with that card. I swear I was. I used it for gas, occasionally for textbooks, paid it off most months. Nothing crazy. Then came spring semester of sophomore year. Spring break was coming up. My friends were planning this trip to Miami, splitting a hotel, driving down. Total cost would be around $600 for the whole week, including food and activities. I didn't have $600. I had about $200 in savings and a credit card with a freshly increased limit of $1,500. So I did what any rational 20-year-old would do. I charged the whole trip. I'll pay it off over the summer when I'm working more hours, I told myself. I didn't pay it off over the summer, because summer brought new expenses, new clothes for my internship, dinners out with coworkers, concert tickets, a new phone after mine fell in a pool. By the time senior year rolled around, my credit card balance sat at approximately $3,400. My minimum payment was around $85 a month, which felt manageable until I realized that $85 was almost entirely interest and my balance was barely moving. That's when the shame spiral started. Every month, I'd open my statement and feel this wave of nausea. I'd pay what I could, sometimes the minimum, sometimes a little more, and then I'd promise myself, next month will be different. Next month was never different. By the time I graduated college, my balance was $4,200. Add in my student loans, and I was entering the real world with nearly $32,000 in debt before I'd even received my first real paycheck. And at that point, I made a decision that shaped my financial life for the next 7 years. Credit cards were the enemy. They were predatory tools designed to trap people like me, and the only way to win was to never use one again. So that's exactly what I did. I went cash only, no credit cards, debit card only for online purchases, cash withdrawn weekly for everything else, the envelope system, the whole thing. And honestly, for about 6 months, it worked great. I couldn't spend what I didn't have. When the cash was gone, it was gone. Simple, clean, impossible to mess up. But then, something strange started happening. Incident number 1. The cash advantage illusion. I was shopping for a new winter coat. My old one was literally falling apart. This wasn't a want, it was a need. I found one I liked for $180. Expensive, but quality. I hesitated because paying $180 in actual physical cash hurts in a way swiping a card doesn't. Then the cashier mentioned, "We offer 5% off if you pay with cash." 5%. That's $9. Not nothing, but also not life-changing. But in my brain, that discount became permission. Well, I'm saving money by using cash, and $9 is $9. I bought the coat, felt smart about it. Later realized I'd gone into my groceries envelope to cover the difference because I didn't have enough in my clothing envelope. I was robbing Peter to pay Paul, but since it was all cash, it felt somehow more real and therefore more acceptable. Incident number 2. The debit card danger zone. Here's something nobody talks about. Debit cards can be more dangerous than credit cards in certain situations. With a credit card, there's a statement period, a grace period, time between purchase and payment where you can review what you did, feel the weight of it, and adjust. With a debit card, the money is gone. Instantly. No review period. No moment of reckoning when the statement arrives. Just poof. I discovered this the hard way when I went through a stretch of ordering delivery 4 or 5 times a week. Each order was $25–$30. Each one came out of my checking account immediately. I didn't feel it until I went to pay rent and realized I was $340 short. With a credit card, I would have seen that pattern on my statement and thought, whoa, I need to chill. With my debit card, I didn't notice until I was already in trouble. Incident number 3. The invisible cost of no credit. This one took longer to show up, but it was arguably the most damaging. By refusing to use credit cards, I wasn't building credit history. My credit score, which had actually been decent in college because I was at least using credit and mostly paying on time, started slowly declining. When I tried to rent a nicer apartment, they wanted a larger security deposit because my credit was thin. When I applied for a car loan, my interest rate was higher than it should have been. When I looked into getting a mortgage someday, I realized I'd need years of credit rebuilding before anyone would give me a competitive rate. I was trying to protect myself from debt, but in doing so, I was quietly creating a different kind of financial disadvantage, one that would cost me thousands in higher interest rates and missed opportunities over time. The real wake-up call came in 2021. I was 27 years old, 3 years into my cash-only experiment, and I was still broke. Not credit card debt broke. I'd actually paid off all my cards before cutting them up, but paycheck to paycheck broke. Emergency fund non-existent broke. 1 bad month away from disaster broke. How is that possible? How can you avoid credit card debt for 3 years and still be completely fragile financially? Because here's the truth I was unwilling to face. The credit card was never the problem. The problem was me, my habits, my impulses, my relationship with money itself. And by removing the credit card without changing any of those underlying issues, I just found new ways to sabotage myself. The moment that proved this beyond any doubt. It was a Tuesday in November. I'd gotten a small bonus at work, $850 after taxes. Not life-changing, but meaningful. Enough to jump-start the emergency fund I kept saying I was going to build. I deposited the check on a Wednesday. By Sunday, 5 days later, $730 of it was gone. Not stolen, not spent on an emergency. Spent on a new gaming console I'd deserved. $499, 3 games to go with it. $179 pizza and snacks for a celebration night with friends. $52. I stood in my living room on Sunday evening, holding an unboxed PlayStation, surrounded by pizza boxes and game cases, and I felt that familiar wave of nausea I used to get from credit card statements. Except this time, there was no credit card to blame. There was no bank to resent, no marketing email to point at and say, they tricked me with 0% APR for 12 months. It was just me, my choices, my lack of self-awareness, my inability to delay gratification even when I knew that money was supposed to go somewhere important. I sat down on my couch and said out loud to an empty room, "You don't have a credit card problem, you have a you problem." Once I stopped blaming the plastic, I could finally see what was really going on. And it turned out there weren't 1 or 2 issues. There were 4 distinct mindset traps that had been controlling my financial behavior for years. Trap number 1. Scarcity thinking. Disguised as being responsible. I grew up in a household where money was always tight, not destitute, but carefully managed. Every purchase required justification. Every want was met with suspicion. As an adult, I internalized this as, spending money is fundamentally dangerous. Good people don't spend unless they absolutely have to. The problem? That belief created a constant state of deprivation, and human beings can only endure deprivation for so long before they rebel. My rebellion patterns looked like long stretches of extreme frugality followed by explosive blowout spending. I'd go 2 months spending as little as possible, feeling virtuous, feeling in control, and then something would snap and I'd drop $500 in a weekend on things I didn't need. I wasn't being responsible. I was creating a cycle of restriction and binging, with money instead of calories. Trap number 2. Emotional spending as coping mechanism. This is the one nobody wants to admit, so I'm just going to say it plainly. I was using shopping to manage my emotions. Stressed after a bad day at work? Browse Amazon for an hour. Feeling lonely on a Friday night? Order delivery and buy a movie on demand? Anxious about something I couldn't control? Buy something I could control, even if it was just a new pair of shoes or a gadget I didn't need. The purchases themselves didn't matter. What mattered was the dopamine hit, the temporary relief, the feeling, for even just a moment, of having something go right. Credit cards made this easier, sure, but they didn't cause it. The cause was my unwillingness to sit with uncomfortable emotions without numbing them somehow. Trap number 3. The future self delusion. For years, I operated under a delusion that went something like this. Future me will have more money than current me. Future me will be more disciplined. Future me will clean up whatever mess current me makes. Future me, it turned out, was a lie I told myself to justify present-day irresponsibility. Future me didn't have more money. Inflation and lifestyle creep made sure of that. Future me wasn't more disciplined. If anything, habits compound in both directions, good and bad. And future me spent years cleaning up messes that past me kept making, wondering why he couldn't just get ahead. I was borrowing happiness from tomorrow to spend today, and tomorrow kept showing up with the bill. Trap number 4. Identity confusion. I'm bad with money. Maybe the most damaging trap of all. I'd built being bad with money into my identity. When you believe you're fundamentally bad at something, you stop trying to improve at it. Why bother? You're just going to mess it up anyway. Every financial mistake became confirmation. See, I knew I couldn't handle this. Every success became a fluke. That was lucky. It won't last. I'd created a self-fulfilling prophecy. I expected to fail with money, so I acted in ways that led to failure, which reinforced my expectation, which led to more failure behavior. Round and round it went. The turning point didn't come from a book, or a guru, or a budgeting app. It came from a question a therapist asked me during a session about stress. What if the way you relate to money is a mirror for how you relate to yourself? That question wrecked me, in the best possible way. I started looking at my financial patterns not as math problems to solve, but as behavioral patterns to understand. And here's what I actually did differently. Step 1. I got a credit card again. Yeah, you heard that right. I applied for a basic cashback credit card with no annual fee. Modest limit, $2,000 to start. And I set up automatic payments for the full statement balance every single month. Why? Because I realized that avoiding credit cards entirely was avoidance, not healing. It was like saying, I'm afraid of fire, and deciding to never cook again instead of learning to handle flames safely. I needed to prove to myself that I could use the tool responsibly, not because the tool had changed, but because I had. Step 2. I started tracking emotions, not just expenses. Every time I made a purchase, especially an unplanned one, I wrote down not just what I bought and how much it cost, but how I was feeling before I bought it. Stressed, lonely, bored, proud, sad, anxious. After about 2 months of this, a pattern jumped off the page. Over 70% of my unplanned spending happened when I was either stressed or lonely. Those two emotions were responsible for the vast majority of my money leaks. Once I saw that clearly, I could address the root cause instead of chasing symptoms. Step 3. I implemented the 24-hour rule plus the why test. Any non-essential purchase over $50 requires a 24-hour waiting period. If I still want it after 24 hours, I can buy it. But first, I have to answer 3 questions. Why do I want this? Be honest. Is it a genuine need or an emotional craving? What will I give up to afford this? Money is finite. Spending here means not spending somewhere else. How will I feel about this purchase in a week, a month? Most of the time, I can't answer these questions convincingly enough to proceed. The desire fades, the impulse passes, and the money stays where it belongs. Step 4. I redefined my relationship with no. I'd always viewed saying no to spending as deprivation, as something being taken away from me. I reframed it. Saying no to small, impulsive purchases is actually saying yes to bigger, more meaningful things. No to random Amazon orders means yes to my travel fund. No to eating out 3 times a week means yes to financial peace of mind. No to upgrading my phone every year means yes to building wealth that actually changes my life. Every no is a yes in disguise. Once I truly understood that, discipline stopped feeling like punishment and started feeling like purpose. Let me bring you to today. I have a credit card. Actually, I have two, one for everyday purchases, one for specific categories that earn bonus rewards. I pay them off in full every single month. I haven't paid a cent in interest in over 2 years. I carry a small balance on my statements sometimes. That's normal. That's how credit cards work. But it gets paid automatically before any interest accrues. My credit score, which had dropped into the mid-600s during my cash-only experiment, is now 776. More importantly, my emergency fund has 6 months of expenses. I'm contributing regularly to investments. I still make impulse purchases sometimes. I'm human. But they're smaller, rarer, and I actually notice them now instead of letting them slide. But the biggest change isn't in the numbers. It's in how I feel about money. I don't fear it anymore. I don't obsess over it. I don't tie my self-worth to my net worth or to how much I did or didn't spend this month. Money is a tool. It serves me. I don't serve it. And whether I access that tool through cash, debit, or credit doesn't matter nearly as much as the hand that's holding it. Before we wrap up, I want to go a little deeper into why we, collectively, culturally, love to blame credit cards for our financial struggles. It's not an accident. There are real reasons our brains do this. Reason number 1, externalization feels better than internalization. If the problem is the credit card, then the solution is simple. Get rid of the card. External, clean. Someone else's fault, the banks, the marketers, the system. If the problem is you, your habits, your emotions, your mindset, then the solution is messy, internal, requires ongoing work and self-reflection. Our brains prefer simple external solutions to complex internal ones. It's not lazy, it's cognitive efficiency. But it's also why we keep solving the wrong problems. Reason number 2, credit cards are designed to encourage spending. I want to be fair here. Credit cards are absolutely engineered to separate you from your money. Rewards programs, sign-up bonuses, frictionless payments, buy now, pay later, options integrated into checkout. Banks employ psychologists and behavioral economists specifically to figure out how to make you spend more. That's real. That's not in your head. But here's the distinction. They design the environment. You make the choice. A casino is designed to keep you gambling. That doesn't mean the slot machine forced you to pull the lever. Understanding how the game works is valuable, but it doesn't absolve you of responsibility for playing it. Reason number 3. Shame makes us want to hide debt carries enormous shame in our culture. We feel embarrassed, judged, like failures. Blaming the credit card lets us preserve some dignity. I'm not irresponsible. I was preyed upon by a predatory industry. There's truth in that. The credit card industry has done genuinely harmful things, especially to vulnerable populations. But for most of us watching this video, people with access to education, with choices, with agency, that narrative only goes so far. Eventually, you have to put down the blame pickaxe and pick up the responsibility shovel. It's heavier work, but it's the only work that actually moves ground. I want to share a few quick stories from people in our community who've been through similar journeys, because if you're sitting there thinking, this is just me, I promise you, it's not. Angela, 35. I cut up my cards in 2019, went cash only for 3 years, ended up in almost the same amount of debt, except it was payday loans and buy now pay later apps instead of credit cards. The common denominator wasn't the financing method. It was me not dealing with why I couldn't just wait. James, 29. I blamed credit cards for 10 years. Finally got therapy for anxiety and realized I was spending to calm myself down. Fixed the anxiety, fixed the spending. Still use a credit card every day. Haven't carried a balance since. Fatima, 41. I thought I was protecting my daughter by telling her credit cards are evil. She got her first card in college and maxed it out in 6 weeks because she'd never learned how to use one responsibly, only how to fear them. I wish I'd taught her tools instead of trauma. These stories are different in details, identical in moral. The instrument was never the issue. The musician was. So here's what I need you to walk away with today. The thing it took me 7 years and thousands of dollars in mistakes to learn: you cannot outrun a money problem by changing the payment method. Switching from credit to cash isn't a solution if the underlying behaviors stay the same. Cutting up your cards isn't victory if you haven't addressed why you overspent on them in the first place. Going debit only isn't progress if you're still spending money you don't have on things you don't need for reasons you won't examine. The credit card is neutral. It's a piece of plastic with a chip. It has no morality, no agenda, no power that you don't give it. What gives it power or takes it away is the hand that holds it. And that hand is controlled by a mind that has its own wiring, its own wounds, its own patterns that existed long before you ever swiped for the first time. So here's your assignment this week, and I want you to take it seriously. Look at your last 10 non-essential purchases. Not bills, not groceries, not gas, the discretionary stuff. For each one, ask yourself, what was I feeling when I bought this? And would I have made the same purchase if I'd had to wait 24 hours? If the answers make you uncomfortable, good. Discomfort is growth trying to happen. Your relationship with money isn't about the tools, it's about you. And the beautiful, terrifying, liberating truth is that you're the only one who can change it. Stop fighting the card. Start understanding yourself. If today's story resonated, if you've ever blamed the plastic, cut up the card, or sworn you just can't trust yourself, I'd love to hear from you. Drop a comment below. What's your honest relationship with credit cards right now? Love them? Fear them? Something in between? And if this conversation gave you a new way to think about an old problem, give this video a like and subscribe if you haven't already. We've got more deep dives into the psychology of money coming your way, because the math only works when the mindset does too. Remember, the tool never held the power. You did, and you still do. Until next time.